Hey everybody, it's Josh. It's cold out, but we got a little bit of snow and it's mostly all melted even though it didn't get above freezing today. I wanted to come out and just do a quick video about how we have to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. People say salvation through faith alone, and I've completely agreed with that. But people have had a problem because I want to reiterate that it is not as simple as it seems. So a lot of people take the faith alone claim, which again, it is true. We are saved by faith alone. It is a gift given to us. But they also discount or completely ignore the aspect that we must have a relationship with Jesus Christ. So Christ gave us this gift, but you must willingly take it. I use the example of it's like a marriage. If you were married and you saw your wife every Sunday if you felt like it, sometimes you got lazy and you skipped a Sunday or two, wanted to sleep in, do whatever. And then maybe when you wanted something, maybe you wanted a hot meal, or maybe you wanted to sleep with your wife, then you'd show up. But every other time you're out cheating on your wife, you would still technically say you have faith in that, you have a relationship, but that is not a healthy, loving relationship. The reason why James says that faith without works is dead is not because works are required to reach salvation. It is because if you do not do those works, you will be showing no fruits of accepting that relationship with Christ. You will be showing that you have not been transformed by Jesus Christ. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about it, and I want to give the example that the Old Testament gives. The Old Testament gives the example of the prophet Hosea. Now, the prophet Hosea, God told him to marry an unfaithful woman. And you say, well, that's such a cruel thing to do. But he did this for a very good reason. So he had him marry a very unfaithful woman. She had 3 kids who were not his. And I don't remember the third one's name, but I remember 2 of their names. One of their names was No Mercy, and the other one's name was Not My People. I think those are amazing names you should bring up at the next baby shower you're at, women. My little No Mercy and my little not my People. I think that he did this to show everyone how it was when we are unfaithful to him, how God felt when we are unfaithful to him. It is the same situation. So if you claim, I am saved through faith alone by Jesus Christ, but you show no transformation in life, I'm not saying you're not going to slip up. I'm not saying you're not going to sin. Of course you are. We're all going to sin. Every single one of us. What I'm saying is, you cannot be perpetually unfaithful to Jesus Christ and expect to be engaged in a loving relationship. First of all, I continuously tell people Excuse me. I continuously tell people that I once thought, and I think that many Christians and many non-believers think, that Christianity is just giving up a life of everything fun in it, giving up a life where you do what you want to do, where you are basically become a boring person, a stick in the mud, you know, just not a fun person. Because I had that perception of Christians for so long before I was saved. And maybe to a certain extent, from an outsider's perspective, it's true. Christians are the ones who are supposed to be trying to perpetually not sin instead of just, well, it's whatever. That perpetual sin is a sign that you have not had the full revelation of Jesus Christ. I'm not saying you haven't had a revelation of Jesus Christ. I'm saying maybe you've had the calling. Maybe you've gotten the calling and you've not answered the calling. But since you've had the calling, you said, okay, here we go. I've had that divine inspiration and now I am saved. No, that is like, again, meeting a woman, getting engaged even, and not following through with the marriage and not having a committed relationship. Or maybe even getting married and having the type of relationship that I said, where you do not visit them except for Sundays and when you want something. Now, Hosea, he had to deal with his wife cheating on him over and over and over again. And it broke his heart every single time. And God's like, it doesn't feel good, does it? Doesn't feel good at all. It got so bad, at the time, she was engaged in temple prostitution. She was there selling herself so much that one of her Johns, or whatever they called them back in the day, took her and put her up for auction, a slave auction. So Hosea had to go and buy his own wife back. It was after that happened that God finally came to Hosea's wife, Gomer, beautiful name Gomer, and he told her that she will be unfaithful no more. He gave her the grace and the love that she had been lacking to have that faithfulness in the marriage. And after that, it was a loving, beautiful marriage. But when something is important in the Bible, slavery, child sacrifice, unfaithfulness, things like this, God usually shows, doesn't tell. A lot of people who hate Christianity, especially, keep saying that the Bible promotes slavery. Really? Does it now? So if the Bible promotes slavery, then why were the Israelites enslaved multiple times, including his greatest prophets, Moses, Joseph, Daniel, and so many others? Why would he allow that to happen to them if that was such a condoned thing by them? Why would that be a punishment to those chosen people if that was not something that he frowned upon? That would have been like, oh, that's life. You're in slavery. Hey, I condone it. The same goes with child sacrifice. Most of the cultures who worshipped false gods like Baal and Moloch, they would sacrifice children at the altar to their gods. Now, Abraham and his wife grew up in a culture where that happened all the time. All the time. So, instead of telling Abraham, no, you must not sacrifice children at the altar, what did he do? He told him to take his child, Isaac, who he was over 100 years old when he finally was able to have a child with his wife, Sarah. He was able to have it with Sarah's servant. That's another story. But he had to take his beautiful son, Isaac, up to the altar. For 3 days and 3 nights they walked up there, and he pleaded with God, anything but this. Take me, do anything. Please do not make me sacrifice my son. When he gets up to the altar, he lifts that knife, and God stops him. Do you not think that showing, not telling, is a much more powerful way to get your point across? God knows this. God gives commandments, sure. But when he wants to prove his point, when he wants to make it stick, he shows through his chosen people. He'll show it through your life sometimes. He absolutely will. A lot of times, that's why we have to go astray. He doesn't want us to go astray. He doesn't want us to be suffering. He doesn't want any of his children to be suffering. But he knows that we have to sometimes touch that hot stove before we realize, hey, we shouldn't touch this hot stove. We have to walk through hell to be able to appreciate heaven. So, this is why we must have a committed, loving relationship before we feel secure in our salvation. If we are in that committed relationship, if we show love to Christ, if Christ shows love to us, then we know that our salvation is secure. We still aren't comfortable with it because we know that we're never going to be good enough. We're never going to be like Christ, but we can be more Christ-like. So I wanted to kind of put that in a different way. I've kind of mentioned these metaphors in a live stream, but I don't think I've mentioned them on a video yet. I might have. My memory is not so great. But I think it's important because we are saved not through just faith alone. We are saved through a committed, loving relationship. And I believe, biblically, that is what Jesus calls us towards through his entire, every single lesson that he gave. He says over and over how there will be many called but few chosen, how many will be standing outside the narrow gates of heaven saying, Lord, Lord, I did so much in your name. I prophesied in your name. I healed people in your name. Please let me in. And he will say, begone, I never knew you. What does that tell us? Hey, they might have had faith in him, but they weren't showing any of that faith. They definitely had belief in him, but belief means nothing. Because I believe, again, no pun intended, that demons who are being exorcised in Jesus' name, the devil himself, they believe in Jesus Christ and his divinity. Faith is a much different story. Faith is something that you must enter into that committed relationship, or you're not showing that you have that faith. And again, only you and God know this. I'm not judging you. I'm only trying to help you have that close, committed relationship with God. Because I saw how awful my life was when I was going astray from him, when I did not believe that God intervened in our life. Jesus tells us that hell is literally a separation from God, while heaven is being connected with God, being one with God, being one in the body of Christ. So we are called to have a committed relationship with him. If you have that lukewarm relationship, just like in the book of Revelation, go read about the church of Laodicea, lukewarm in Laodicea. He says to them, this is at the end times, I would rather you be hot or cold, but you are lukewarm and I will vomit you out of my mouth. Now, there's much more context to that, but it gets to the point. A lukewarm faith, there is no such thing. Faith means commitment. Faith means that there will be works. Not if you're the thief on the cross. If you're the thief on the cross and only have minutes to live, then of course you won't be able to do works. But you will still prove your faith and prove your commitment by saying, think of me when you're in your kingdom. And Christ says, truly I say to you, by the end of this day, we will be together in the kingdom of heaven, to the thief on the cross. So I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about, have you had that divine revelation? And if you have, how has your life been transformed because of it? If it has not been transformed, then you need to keep seeking. You need to keep, God is courting you. The Father is drawing you into the Son. You need to keep answering that calling, as I said in my last video. Answer that calling, or else you will just go astray again. If you don't answer the calling, if you don't respond to that beautiful woman who keeps flirting with you and really wants to commit her life to you, and you don't say, I want to commit my life to you, that perfect woman who, no perfect woman or man exists except for Jesus Christ, and he's fully God and fully man. If you do not respond to her advances, or women, if you don't respond to his advances, then how do you expect to be in a relationship? I just want you all to think about that. Let me know where you think I'm wrong. I could absolutely be wrong, but that is how my experience has gone. So, I love you all so much. God bless.